Chris,
well, listen, Mark, listen, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to anything?
How much coffee did you drink before the show?
Listen, you can't polish a sneaker, right? throw tomatoes at me, do whatever you're going to do.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Brought to you by Mountain View Home Watch and Security, Arizona's leading watch and security firm. And I'm joined, sitting right over there, by Mark Catone. And in the booth is our producer, director, Joe Guarnieri. Listen, and you, we want to hear from you. We want to hear all of your thoughts. Join us on the chat right now. It's up live and going. Also, tweet us, Corso and Catone, and you can also reach us by email, corso.catone@gmail.com. And what's becoming our real popular heated hotline, 855-313-PATS. You can call 24/7 all throughout the week. Take a listen to our show that's always up and going throughout the week. And call, leave a message. We want to know your thoughts and why. Joe will go through them. He doesn't let Mark and I hear them, but he'll go through them and he'll pick the one he thinks he wants to put on the air, and we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. So you don't want to miss that for sure. Mark, we got a packed show today. As always, want to talk about your favorite thing. Want to talk Yankees versus Red Sox. And also, you don't want to miss Catone's comments. That's always a fan favorite. For our diehard Pats fans, we're going to get into our final QB battle, and we'll tell you why. And the roster build. Want to go through the position groups, talk to you about what we think about the guys they kept. So,
Chris, Mark, we got 1 week. One week
to showtime, right, Mark?
I can't wait.
Yeah, the New England Patriots are hosting Miami Dolphins at 1 p.m. Eastern next Sunday.
1 p.m. your time.
And the Pats, 10 a.m. East, my time, 1 p.m. your time, or 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern time.
Joe, he's got COVID brain again this week, Joe.
I'm 3 hours,
like comes back and forth.
Behind. I'm 3 hours behind. I'm always messing that up. So, no, 4 p.m. Eastern time in Foxborough. Mark, listen, it's so popular. Let's get started with the heated hotline. Let's do it. Joe, let's hear it.
Hotline. Hi, yes, this is Phil in Bridgeport. I'm calling about the salary cap for basketball. Why is Rajon Rondo signed in Los Angeles and the Lakers now have a formidable team with Westbrook and Davis and LeBron, and they can seem to find all the money to do that. Yet the Celtics constantly are telling us they have to work around the cap. Where are they finding all the money to do this? There's other teams. What about us? Why can't the Celtics do something about this? Is the salary cap a bunch of BS then? I feel it's BS. How do they work around it? Can't they work around it? And is it just ownership being cheap? Thanks, guys.
So, Mark, thank you, Phil, for that message. Mark, if you could be that calm, we're talking about a guy who's this.
What are you trying to say? What are you saying? I'm not calm, Chris? Come on.
So,
first of all, Phil should have said bullshit. Forget BS. Bullshit, Phil. Bullshit.
Well, he's pretty excited about Rajon Rondo, but Mark, does Phil make a good point here?
No, he does make a good point, Chris. I think he does. I mean, listen, every year we hear the same stuff out of the Celtics. Well, we got to wait another year. Maybe 2 years, the cap. They're going to free up contracts. But nothing. We heard that from Ainge for how many years, Chris? Nothing ever happened.
Yeah. And how honestly, if that's the case for here, then how are the Lakers doing this? Now, how are they signing these guys and LeBron and Davis and Westbrook? I mean, that big three right there, that Rondo, I get it. That triggered Phil.
Well, then they brought in Carmelo Anthony. Not that Anthony's playing for big money, but I'm sure he's not playing for free.
No, it seems like they're loading up on that team. But again, so why, why can't the Celtics? I mean, is it the same as in football? where the cap is crap?
I think it is. The cap is crap. Yeah, I agree with that statement 100%. I think, Chris, it's more, believe it or not, it might be more like baseball, where you can go over the cap if you want to pay a huge luxury tax. Like the Dodgers don't give a shit what the cap is. They pay they're paying $100 million in luxury tax. They don't give a shit. So maybe it's like that. I think the Celtics maybe want to stay within a certain line and be, strict about that, where the Lakers don't give a shit. Maybe it's more like baseball. I don't know.
Mark, you're fired up today.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
You're fired up today. No, listen, I agree with you. I mean, in so many sports now, you look at these caps, and you're right. I mean, it seems to be garbage for some places, and it just seems to be a way for the owners to own CEOs, whatever, to look back at it and say, hey, you know what, we don't want to spend that money. We just don't want to do it. Wink and company over there, right?
Yeah. Well, like you always say, Chris, with football, what's the real money? The real money's in quarterbacks, right? There's only certain amounts of real money in football, and then everything else, it's all spread. It's all funny money, right?
Yeah, it's guaranteed. The guaranteed money matters. That's coming off the books right away.
So listen, Celtics ownership can say whatever they want, but there's got to be something going on with ownership where they say, hey, we're staying within a certain number, because Chris, this is every year. I mean, it's inconceivable that the Lakers could have constructed this team and stayed within a salary cap. They had to blow through the salary cap. They had to.
Yeah, you're right. And okay, it was okay when they were talking about, well, we got these picks. We have all these picks, the Brooklyn picks, this and the other thing. And so we're going to build that way. So the cap, you can stay within and just bring a few guys in that aren't going to hurt you too bad, get rid of some of the salaries that they may have had. But Ainge butchered that. I mean, Ainge butchered that after the Kyrie drama and situation. So from there, now you're stuck with, well, we have to create our own big three again. And how are we gonna do that? Well, now we got to free up money. That's why they brought Horford in. That's why they moved.
Well, yeah, now that's their new thing now, Chris. Now we're signing guys because we're gonna be able to trade them as chips. So now we can free up. Like now it's a totally different philosophy. I don't know what the hell they're doing, Chris, but I will guarantee you we'll be sitting here a year from now, and it's gonna be the same thing. But where's the third guy? Like they still haven't done it.
Right. And I'm not sure if Stevens. Stevens is a rookie. He's a rookie GM. So is he going to be tentative in spending that money? Or is he just going to be content to take those marching orders from up top and say, look, don't spend the money. But you want a guy like Beal. They were already doing that. They're already freeing some money up to bring him in. And we assume to bring him in. But
supposedly, Chris, they extended guys like Robert Williams and Smart because, according to what they're telling us, it's easier to trade a guy that's not on a expiring contract, because if a team really is interested in Robert Williams, well, now they're willing to trade with you because they know that they've got him locked up for 3 years. So now they're using a different philosophy where under Ainge, it was like, well, we got to get an expiring contract to get rid of him. And so I don't know. I think it's all a bunch of goddamn mumbo jumbo. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't, Chris. It makes no goddamn sense to me.
Yeah. Listen, I'm with you, and looks like we have a chat in from Podcast Talk Show. Hi, Guy. I have a question, Q&A question for you all. We got 30 seconds, so
let's do it.
Chat it in. Let's hear it. What's your question? But Joe, I never understand what the names of these people are. But if you see that come into the chat, yeah, if you see them come into the chat, and here it is. What's your biggest fear? What hobby do you do? What favorite food? What is the? What did you take a vaccine? Because what is this, Mark? This is a sport. This is a sports. This is a New England, the real deal.
My biggest fear is I get questions like that. That's my biggest fear. What
hobby? I mean, you're listening to this show and you're asking us what our hobby is. Okay. We appreciate the chat, but you got to tune in more. You got to watch us, especially when the Pats Nation comes back for the post-game show. So listen, thank you for the chat. We certainly
hobby. Look over your shoulder. What's your hobby?
Yeah, I know. So listen, the Heated Hotline was brought to you by Jag Media Productions. Hey, Mark, it's time for your favorite thing right now. Got to talk
Yankees, Red
Yankees.
Sox.
That's it, Joe. Let's have it. Mark, Yankees are coming down to earth, yes?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, Chris, they won 13 games in a row. How do you keep that up, right? You knew they were going to come down to earth at some point. Obviously.
Win them all. Win them all. That's it.
Well, I wish. Well, it seems like Tampa Bay is, doesn't it? Tampa Bay wins 9. They lose 1. They win another 9 in a row. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the Yankees are going to do that. I mean, we're struggling with Baltimore now.
Right.
Who's the worst team in the league?
And yeah, I saw that last night. In fact, I texted Mark. I think Mark, I don't know what time that was. Yeah, I texted you. This is what a degenerate. And you know, the caller wanted to know, the chat wanted to know, what do you do for a hobby when it's 2:30 in the morning? Okay, and I'm getting a response to a text about what a terrible loss that is to the Orioles. There's your answer to the hobby. So, Mark, what? Do you just think that this is the even way they're going to take the rest of the season? I mean, do you think Tampa can continue to do what they're doing?
Well, yeah, we're not catching Tampa. Take that off take that fantasy right out of your head. That's not happening. You're going to have to win the wild card to get to the playoffs, and you're going to have to try to hold off either Boston or Oakland. Like, you want to host the wild card, especially if it's the Red Sox, because you know what it's going to be, Chris. It's going to be Cole against Sale. It's going to be the two studs. Give them the ball. And see what happens. And you want that game in Yankee Stadium. You don't want to have to come to Fenway Park and play the Red Sox, Cole Sale, because Cole has a history of giving up home runs in Fenway Park. So you don't want to have to go there. We need to stay in this position. So whoever that wild card is, especially if it's the Red Sox, they get to come to us, and it's going to be Sale Cole. And you know what? Get a box of popcorn and your favorite beverage, because it's going to be a hell of a game with those two guys on the mound, Chris. I really think that's what it's going to end up being. Even though the Red Sox look like trash right now.
Well, we'll get into them in a second. But listen, as far as look, you can't script that better. The MLB.
They must be praying for that, Chris.
Absolutely, because you just can't. You can't do it. And, hopefully Boston doesn't, the bottom doesn't completely fall out, and then they drop that. But again, look, for the Yankees, I told you last week, and I'm going to continue to say the same thing. I think they're now doing the little things, right? I mean, they're doing the little things they weren't doing before. And maybe that's due to the fact that, we brought Rizzo on this team, and you had said that bringing him on the team pushed some other guys, like Voit, for example. And now it seems that they're doing the little things to run production, right?
Well, yeah, Chris, even like, for an example, the last couple of games they've won. Yeah, they've hit some home runs, but they've won with game-winning singles. They've driven guys in from second base with a single to win the game. Stanton did it the other night. He got a hit, a single to bring. Like, typically it was either an extra base hit or you struck out. Now they're getting those singles. They're doing the little things that they didn't do before to win these games. And that's what they're going to have to do, Chris, because you can't count on the home run, because obviously that wasn't working.
Right. And does Boone, because I bring up Boone and Mark loses his mind. So quick, Mark, does Boone have anything to do with this?
No.
You got to have something to do with it.
Okay. Yeah, he does. He's in the dugout, right? Yeah. They pop him up like Weekend at Bernie's and put a Yankee hat on him. What do they do? What's he doing in there? No. But here's what he does, Chris, I think. I think he actually has done a decent job of shuffling some of the lineup with guys in, out, batting orders. I think the pitching, I don't think he's had anything to do with the pitching. I think they've just gotten lucky. I'm not lucky. I think they did a good job of building the minor league roster so that these guys that they've had to bring up because of injuries have actually been able to fill in the holes. I still don't think he manages the bullpen well. He brings guys in the 8th inning, guys in the 9th inning. There's Chad Green. Chad Green should never see the 9th inning ever again. And he keeps trying them. And every time he brings Chad Green in, boom, home run, boom, off the wall. Why are you bringing this guy in a tie game in the 9th inning? Chad Green at this point needs to be a guy that comes in maybe in the 7th or 6th, gives you 6 outs, 3 to 6 outs. He can't be anywhere near that, the mound if it's on the line, because lately he's just been a home run machine. But Boone keeps doing it.
So there's your answer to Boone. And podcast, the talk show is still chatting in. Mark wants to know what your
What's he want to know if I like pizza?
What's your worst nightmare, Mark? My worst nightmare. Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl.
He went to Tampa Bay. That was my worst nightmare.
It already happened. It already happened. And then they're going back to back. That's another nightmare right there. That can happen.
My worst nightmare is going to happen week 4 when Chris and I have to go watch that man play in our stadium with another uniform. That's my worst nightmare, and it's happening.
Hey, Mark, I can't even answer what sports do you play. We're two of us, Mark, they'd have to put us in a hospital. They got to take us out in a stretcher if we tried to play at least me. I don't know about you.
Listen, I don't have, wait a minute, wait a minute, here we go, I got my nitroglycerin over here. I got my nitroglycerin, that's what I need. I'll have to take the nitroglycerin out, Chris.
That's the sport. That's the sport we're playing, and listen, they talk
Chris,
about...
Listen, the Red Sox are losing again.
Yeah,
we want to talk about Yankees, Red Sox, they're getting beat.
I got to talk about the Red Sox. Here we go.
They're losing, right? Well, listen, what do you think about Cora right now?
If we were going to give him as much love as we did and as many props as we did,
and we gave him a lot. We did give him a lot.
And I still feel like that. I still feel like he's a top flight manager in this. Like, God, I wish New York would have swept right in and grabbed him when they fired him at Boston.
Yeah, they would have never did that. Not a Boston guy.
But I'll tell you something. For as much crap as we gave him, as much love as we gave him, we got to give him equal crap to this. I mean, it would be one thing if they were just falling on some slumps and things like that. But these guys look like they quit. I mean, some of these guys look like they're just not giving that kind of effort anymore. And we talked about the trade deadline, but that's getting to be an old argument, isn't it, Mark? Yeah,
that is. I think with the COVID thing going through the clubhouse and guys that they're bringing up and their lack of depth in the minor league system, I think Cora is kind of at a loss for what to do. And I think the players, Chris, to your point, it's almost like, I don't want to say they've given up, but I think they've lost a little bit of that energy and that pep that they had in that clubhouse, because I think they're looking around and saying, listen, I think the players realize we don't have the horses, and they didn't bring in the horses during the trade deadline, and they're limping to the finish line here. And hey, who knows? I mean, you could get in a one-game playoff against the Yankees and Chris Sale throws a gem, and all of a sudden, hey, that makes their whole season. But they're really limping to the finish line, and it just, their bullpen is, anytime they got to go to the bullpen, it's like they're throwing the dice. I mean, even yesterday, Adavino gives up the home run, the 2-run homer to tie the game. They just happen to win it in the bottom of the ninth. But the bullpen is horrible. I mean, they got a lot of holes and a lot of deficiencies that are being exposed. And Cora, okay, he won a World Series. That team that they had was stacked, right? Now this year, they come out of the gate strong. He's doing a decent job. They're doing well, but this is the first time, Chris, since Cora's been the manager of this team in recent memory, that he's had to face diversity. How do you think he's handling that diversity? I don't know if he's really doing a great job at it.
No, not so far. And you're right. He hasn't faced it before. So, So if this is any indication, and the players are not making it real easy for him either.
Chris, if you watch his press conferences after the games, though, he's fumbling through his words. Yeah. Like he's not very confident even behind the mic. Like, I think he's at a loss as to what to say.
How many times can you get up there and say the same thing? I mean, he's embarrassed by it because he knows he's taking the crap for it. He knows he should be taking it.
And he's taking the crap, Chris. He's taking the crap, Chris, for Bloom and the front office for not making any moves that strengthen this team too. But he's got to shut his mouth and take. He's got to shut his mouth and take it.
He's got to take his licks. But Mark, I mean, 105 games, 100 games, they played the way they played. That's not that's not just luck. That's a trend. And they just quit. They just seem like they just quit. So I'm not giving Cora a pass on that. That's usually a manager's thing, but you're right. Every time they bring those guys in, it's kind of like watching Hugh Millen drop back for a pass in the early 90s.
Oh my God. Yo, how old? Look at you, Chris. You're showing your age.
Every single time. And Joe, podcast, the talk show, man, you're going to get that under control, Joe. They're chatting in all kinds of things, scary movies, things like that. Hey, look, The real deal New England feel, right?
Who's your favorite rapper?
Who's the rapper? I don't know. I don't know.
What's the worst thing you've ever done? I can't even type that fast. I don't even know how to keep up.
I'll tell you what, podcast, talk show, stay tuned, because coming back, we have Catone's comments. You're not going to want to miss that right after this.
Chris, you know what I need? I need an intervention in my house. An intervention. All right? Do you know what? You haven't been to my house in a while. You know, it's been a little bit of time since you've been to my house. Do you know what my house has become? It's become an annex of Home Goods. It's an extension of Home Goods. I need an intervention for my wife. Every place I go, it's Home Goods. It's like I should put tags on them, and the people that come and visit, they can go shopping in my house. In the corner, we rearranged furniture. She needed something in the corner to take up space in the corner. She goes and buys some 3-piece shelf thing. I don't know, Chris, what the hell it is, right? And then what does she fill the shelves with? A knick-knack, a clock, all from Home Goods. Huh? What? There's no other store that you can go to but Home Goods. Now, her next thing, Chris, she's into these things you put on the walls, they're writing. Above the sink, every time I go into the sink in the kitchen, it says, the kitchen is where the heart is, with little hearts. What the hell? I wake up in the middle of the night, I get scared, for Christ's sakes. I see things on the wall. I think it's one of those horror movies they write. What was it, in The Shining? They were red rum on the wall in the red blood. Remember with Jack Nicholson? I think it's The Shining. I said to my wife, could you quit it? With Home Goods. I'm done. No more Home Goods. No more of these stores. I don't care. But find another store. I don't care what it is. Not Home Goods. Now the holidays are coming pretty soon. Halloween, she'll put all these things out, decorations. Where do you think they're from, Chris? Where do you think? They're from Home Goods. Home Goods. Chris,
Joe,
I'm losing my mind with Home Goods. I've had it.
Joe, I think he's... I think
we need a different kind of intervention.
You imagine living in that house. He's gone off the edge.
Off the edge completely.
Mark, you're out there like Pluto.
When you come in for that game, I'm going to tag everything you see. I'm going to put tags. You can buy it. Take them home to your wife. I'm going to put tags. The Home Goods stuff. It's going to be Home Goods Annex. I'm going to put a sign out. I'll make money.
Give her a break, Mark. Give her a break. You know, what are 2 weeks? You know, Mark's son went off to college, and what do you think that must be like? Gotta fill it with something, right? Gotta fill it with something. Give her a break. Hey, some of those things are nice, Mark, but I have to ask, who put the shelf together?
Do you think I put the shelf together? That's a running joke in my house, is I can't put together 2 pieces of paper and make them stick. So my wife, when the kids were little, we'd get them toys. You know, she'd be the one who would take the manual out and have to put them together. I'd hand her the tools, and I'd hand her the things piece by piece. I couldn't put nothing together, Chris, at all. I still can't. So the shelving, she put it together, and then I stand back and look and tell her where she can put the stuff from Home Goods. Home Goods. You think it's funny, Home Goods?
Joe, it takes great work to get out of working. It takes great work to get out of working.
Well, what get out of working? I don't do those kind of things, Chris. You know, what do you want from me?
which is Mark's theme when it comes to home goods.
Well,
So,
Chris, let me ask you a question. Does your wife put things up on the wall, these sayings and words and all this stuff?
Mark, I live in what you see behind me.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. He lives in that thing. He don't leave.
Behind me.
He don't
you
leave.
know? So that's it. I come in and out of the garage, and this is where I live. I don't know what's up. I don't know anything. So
You don't even look.
I don't even look. Mark, thank you for that. As always, Catone's Comments was brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm, corsolawgroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. When we come back, Mark, the Pats diehard Pats fans, don't go anywhere because we're going to talk roster build and our final QB battle right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to corsolawgroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Get ready for the Pats Nation, the only real deal New England Patriots post-game show. Sponsored by Corso Law Group. Allow us to be your voice. And the Special Sauce Podcast. Startup, finance, and drive yourself to success. And now, Corso and Catone.
Mark, how excited can we possibly be for this? Huh?
I can't wait, Chris. One more week.
Like Joe, like the promo for the Pats Nation. And listen, tune in.
Get
30
ready.
Minutes, 30 minutes following every Patriots game. Mark and I are going to be on the real post-game show for the New England Patriots. So make sure you tune into that. And once again, Saturdays, Corso and the Catone will be on, and we'll be doing a preview show of the following game. So, Mark, getting into what's going down. I mean, God, we have to start.
Can I play the last one at least?
Yes.
All right,
let him
play
do it.
Give it
Let him do
come
it.
on.
Play one more time.
All
One last time. Go ahead. Joe, I'm sad to see that go. Just for that purpose. Just for that.
I know,
that
right?
Piece that's
Yes.
put together. Not for what's all happened, because Mark, I think Patriots Nation is very excited for this. There's an excitement going on that we haven't seen in 20 years. Yes?
Yeah. Well, yeah. His jersey already sold out, Chris, in the store. This the team store at Gillette. So obviously there's some excitement, right?
And for those of you who don't know, if you've been living on an island somewhere with Wilson the Ball, the Patriots released Cam Newton in a surprising move at the deadline to bring the roster down to 53 players. They go ahead and release Cam Newton, and that was following Cam Newton's little mistake involving the COVID protocols. And we said last week, Mark, that usually things like that are a death sentence. Why is he covering for Cam Newton? And, truth be told, he wasn't, was he?
No, he wasn't. He absolutely was not. I think he definitely had an affinity for Cam Newton, right? Let's face it, he did. I mean, just from his comments, and I think because Cam Newton came in and he said all the right things, and Cam was Cam, and I think he did have an affinity to him. But I think over the course of the training camp, I think his eyes were opened up a bit to the fact that, hey, this kid can play. And I have to believe, Chris, that McDaniels was in his ear pushing him every practice saying, hey, this kid can play, this kid can play. Not that he's going to listen to McDaniels. Obviously, Belichick is the boss. But I think the one thing, Chris, that you brought up at the very beginning, you said to me, can he win over the locker room? And if he can win over the locker room, the kid can start week one. And if you listen to the comments, Chris, from all these guys, his play over the summer won over the locker room. And that, I think, was a critical piece, too. That if Belichick didn't think he won over that locker room, he wouldn't have made that decision, Chris. I don't think.
No, and on the flip side of it, for Cam Newton, I mean, you pretty much gave up the starting job by whatever took place with this COVID thing. Because, you know, Jones would not have got those 41 attempts, 32 attempts, you know, against the Giants in those joint practices. He just wouldn't have gotten. And I think that had a long way to go for what you said, too, having Belichick make that decision. And listen, you better listen to McDaniel because, you know, he's the guy calling the plays out there. So, I mean, you know, the game plan is stamped by Bill Belichick, but McDaniel's calling that game. And I'll tell you what, we've been saying it for months since he was drafted. McDaniel's ear-to-ear smiles with this guy. And I don't think, listen, you can look at, I want to get to the other position groups, but you can look at, people are making the comparison to Brady and Mac Jones. Let's be clear. We're making the comparison for Tom Brady 2001.
Yes,
you know, when he first came on.
Thank you for making that clarification, Chris. Yes.
And Mac Jones is ahead of where Brady was at that time. Physically, they kind of look the same from when he was back there to now. So that's the only criticism of him right now is he's got to get in shape in the offseason to become that physical NFL quarterback. And the other question is, can he get through a 17-game schedule?
And Chris, the other thing I think I want to see is what happens, because like you said it last week, Chris, he's going to struggle. There's going to be a point where this kid's going to struggle if he is the starter, because teams are going to scheme for him and plan for him. And what happens when he throws 2 picks and he has, you know, a 12 for 23 game or whatever it is, it just has one of those real bad games.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. How does he react the following week? Because that's what we don't know, obviously, right? We don't know that. And before we move on to other position groups, Joe, you know, I was going to see, he was too busy, Joe, this week. He was, you know, getting all these graphics ready and all the stuff he does for us every week. So Joe couldn't find the clip, but he's going to find it before this is over. When I said to you, week 1 starter is going to be Mac Jones. Yeah. Joe will find the clip eventually.
Can we remember what episode that was?
We don't need that clip. We don't need that clip at all, Mark. You know,
we don't need no stinking clips.
I would listen. I will acknowledge. You know, Mark's expertise here in predicting the week 1 starter. But I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody could predict that they were going to release Cam Newton altogether. And listen, the story coming out of there and the rumor coming out is that it's not like they offered Cam Newton the backup job and he just turned it down. He was flat out released. So you know, I would imagine, because leading up to this, I mean, Bill Belichick, to say he was an apologist for Cam Newton is an understatement. The bottom line is he was hanging on the hat of, he had the team's interest, Cam Newton. They had his back and he was a good leader. And I think Belichick probably looked at the situation of what happened with this COVID thing and said, is he really a good leader? You know, is he really? So, you know, I think if you take the pulse of the Patriots nation right now, there's a level of excitement that would not have been if Cam Newton was starting this season. And maybe, you know, listen, let's hope it's not 12 for 23 in week 4. But I think he's got he's got time to get there.
Chris, but to your point, what you just said, so when we're talking about, you know, the bad week's going to come, and I think part of what Belichick did in releasing Newton was, you don't got to look over your shoulder, Mac. This is your team. If you throw 2 picks and go 12 for 23, he's not warming up on the sideline. Don't worry about it. Newton's not coming. This is your team. I'm getting rid of him. It's your team. Take it and run with it, and let's see what you can do. So I think that's a big thing. And one other thing, Chris, I was just reading this morning, and I brought this up to you. Very interesting. I read it. So Rob Nikovich, who obviously he's been around a lot of the practices lately. If you noticed over the summer, Nikovich was at a lot of practices, and they said he was kind of like almost like a sounding board for players, and almost even like for Mayo. Hey, what are you seeing out there, right? And Nikovich made the comment today that some of the nuances of that playbook that McDaniels utilizes that requires you to do some quick reads and some quick adjustments at the line, or the nuances that Brady made look so easy, right? Jones was helping Newton with.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So that's kind of a scary thought when you think about the rookies helping him after how many years?
It's a scary thought, but it's a nice thought.
It is a nice thought
for the Patriots right now. So,
and the other kid said, J.C. Jackson.
Joe, do you have to hold on? Is it necessary? How much did he pay you to keep putting that crap scrolling through the bottom of the scrolling through the
I didn't
bottom
even
of
think
the
anybody
screen
noticed
right
it.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, I noticed it. I noticed it.
Jason
gotta
Jackson,
give it to him.
Chris said this week after it happened, he said, this kid's more ready than anybody even knows to play. This kid is ready, like more ready than anybody realizes. So whatever he was doing, Chris, in practice every day that we don't see, that necessarily may not have been reported, the kid won the job.
Yeah. Well, listen, the bottom line is, and that's why I liken it to 2001 with Brady. The bottom line is I don't necessarily believe he's going to be called on to win a game. This is a managing situation. Just don't lose the game. Don't lose it. Don't throw a pick. Don't do anything stupid. Don't give a bad read. Don't fumble don't hold on to the ball too long. Just be smart. Take what they give you and, move that ball down the field. Do the best you can. Because with this defense, and we're going to get into it in a few minutes, with this defense, you shouldn't need to do any of that, especially in the first half of the season. The first half of the season, Mark, they don't see a ton of good quarterbacks. They see a lot of inexperience. Yeah, they see one. I guess they get Brady, fine. But other than that,
no. If you look at it, Chris, and that's why I don't think they're so nervous about Gilmore being out. You're right, Chris. The first 6 weeks, other than Tampa Bay, you're not facing any lethal quarterbacks or passing attacks. You should have enough on the defensive side of the ball, maybe to go 5-1, 6-1, and then all of a sudden Gilmore's back. Or not, but you should be able to make it through that stretch, Chris. I think with the secondary and the front seven you have.
Right, but as it relates to Mac Jones, I think slowly they can bring him along and not worry about a quarterback on the other side of the ball.
It's going to lighten
it up and throw for 300 yards in a game. 200, whatever it is, and a lot of touchdowns. So, and Mark, listen, and that was the QB battle. So. Moving on to the rest of the position, we promised everyone we get into the rest of the position groups and what is left. And I don't know that we necessarily need to go to who was released as much as we need to go to who was re-signed to the practice squad. Because once again, there they were this week, all week long, the so-called flagship station of the New England Patriots. I'm not even going to give the number of the station, but the bottom line is they said it again. You cut all these players, you released all these players. They don't even understand the business side of things. You release these players and then you bring them back after they clear. It's a strategic thing to say, well, why did they keep this guy and not that guy? Why did they keep the rookie kicker and not Folk, right?
Because they knew nobody was going to pick up Folk.
Right, but there was a pretty good shot after they saw in the preseason that the kicker on this team
somebody would have took a flyer on him, Chris, when they see he kicks over 50 yards like nothing.
Right, who has a Nordine we're talking about, who has a powerful leg. So he just can't seem to get it in between the uprights, which should come with preparation and practice. So, Mark, getting in, and that's the kicker. We're covering that right now, and I think they'll probably bring him along a little slow and let Folk start the season, I would think. But, Mark, we covered the quarterbacks. I think this next group could, has the potential to be one of the best, if not the best, collectively in the NFL right now. And that's talking about the running back room. Mark, you got Brandon Bolden, Harris, Stevenson, Taylor, White. Mark,
Chris, know who I've been excited about.
And I think they picked up Perry.
Chris, who I've been excited about since they picked him up as an undrafted free agent last year. I said to you, this kid can play, Chris, right? Is who? Man. Taylor.
JJ Taylor.
I've loved Taylor from when they got him. I loved him. Remember?
He was. And this is a guy, I told you, I keep saying it. He reminds me of a Sproles. A guy that can get to the edge.
He's a cross between Sproles and Deion Lewis. With a little more pop to him than Darren Sproles. Right, Sproles. Yeah, it's.
And I'm big on Stevenson. I like his vision. He's in between tackle running. Okay. And listen, it's hard to do. It's hard to have good vision in between the tackles. You know, when you get past that first level and now a quick move has to be made. I think Stevenson has that. And then he's got the power. He's got the power to be going forward at all times. Then there's Harris. So I mean,
Harris, Chris, I think if he stays on the field, because he has a tendency to get dinged up and injured, I think he's going to have a huge year too. I think, Chris, the combination, as you said, the combination of the four of those guys, Harris, Stevenson, White, and Taylor, Chris, potentially is the best, one of the best running back rooms probably in the entire league. No?
Yeah, I agree. And what's going to make it even better is the next group, which is the offensive line. To me, the offensive line is the...
Well, Chris, wait a minute. No, before we go to the offensive line, you forgot one guy in that running back group, your buddy.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Bolden. Bolden's a special teams guy. We could talk about him when he gets a special team. I don't want to hear about Bolden carrying the ball or getting anything out of the backfield. That's a waste. Hey, that's a waste of seconds on this show. So let's talk about, honestly, let's talk about the offensive line, because to me, that's the strength of this team. You know, You got Andrews, Karras backing him up. You got, tackles, Brown, Wynn, Durant, a couple of backups that are pretty good. And then you got Haran and Mason over at the guard position. Mark, this is a loaded. And some of these backups are pretty damn good too. I would argue. And when they had to release Ferenz, okay, that was a tough call, because he's a good football player. This is a guy that I think,
Chris, did he come back on the practice squad? Ferenz? I'm going to try to look it up.
He did. They did bring him back.
So they did bring him back.
But that's a guy. That's a guy that I think other teams are going to look for when offensive linemen go down all the time. And I think other teams are going to look to the Patriots to see if they could make some sort of deal for him, because he's a good football player. But going back to the starters,
he's a good football player.
When the starters on this team are going to be Andrews at center, it's going to be Haran and Mason at the guard position, and it's going to be Wynn and Brown at the tackle. So, yeah, they're going to be able to run the ball. That offensive line is going to help that running back room to be the best in football, in my opinion. So, I mean, if they get injured,
well, Chris, the offensive line, wouldn't you say the offensive line is one of the best in football?
Is the best, I believe, in football. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because, I mean, look, Karras backing up Andrews in the preseason was pretty damn good too. Yeah. And at one point, Chris, they signed Karras to be the starter. They didn't know if Andrews was coming back. Remember, Karras was signed technically to be the starter when they figured Andrews wouldn't come back, and then at the last minute, Andrews decided to come back. Exactly. And so again, you lose Tooney, I get it, but Haran has looked good. He's looked real good. And so that, the communication on that offensive line, because what people don't understand is the level of communication the offensive line has from the center out. They're calling out the mic too. They're calling out the
Chris, you made that point last year several times when Andrews went down. You said that people don't realize how important of a position that is because of the guys on the side of him and what that means when the offensive line was really struggling last year. And you had brought that up. So that's a key thing to talk about.
Yeah, it works from the inside out. I feel like Mason had a bad year because he didn't have Andrews there. That chemistry on the offensive line. So, Mark, that's the strength of this team. And they're going to have to run the ball, because this next group, okay, and we could talk tight ends in a second, but this next group is the one on the offense, and it has been for a long time, that's sketchy, that's shaky, and that's the wide receivers. I mean, you got Aguilar, it's better than it was last year for sure, but is it good enough? I mean, you got Aguilar, Bourne, Jacoby Myers, okay, Olszewski, Slater, who's really he's a special teams guy, but he's in that wide receiver room. Oh, and by the way, just real quick, we didn't talk about Jacob Johnson. There's another guy for a fullback that's going to allow a lot of help to the running game.
He's a good blocker, a good lead blocker.
These wide receivers, and I guess then number one would be Aguilar, right? But he's not a guy that's going to take he can take the top off the secondary a little bit and get downfield. He showed he could do that in Oakland or with the Raiders, right? Is he going to be able to do that with the Patriots? That's the question.
So, Chris, here's what I think with Aguilar, right? He hasn't shown well, Chris. He's dropped passes. He hasn't shown much in preseason. I don't know if he's been dinged up a little bit, right? He's been on and off the practice field a few different times. Right? He's been invisible, but he's been on and off the practice field a few different times. So I envision Aguilar, Chris, being at his best, when you finally get two healthy tight ends, you have Smith and Henry on the field together, healthy. With that running game, I think it's going to allow Aguilar to get some one-on-one coverage down the seam or down the field where he will be able to get open. I'm not saying he's going to be one of these definite, a wide receiver one type of guy, but I think he's going to give you a level of a wide receiver down the field that Jones will be able to hit more than Newton could have hit in certain instances because he's going to get open because of the tight ends, right?
If they can stay, if they can
if
stay
they
healthy,
can stay on the field.
I mean, Henry and Smith.
Because let's face it, Chris, we didn't see that the entire preseason either. The two tight ends on the field at the same time.
No, they were invisible. They and Aguilar are invisible. So let's see what the chemistry is like with Mac Jones. And
Chris,
that's why it's going to probably take a while to get that done, Mark.
Do you think Myers could be a guy that's like one of these 80, 90 catch guys?
Well, I think he's a 3. And I think if they, I think Bourne is more that way, as the 2, where you could do a lot of that dirty work in the middle. But no, I think Myers has always shown. I mean, for some reason, people are reluctant to give Myers his due. But, he's been the go-to guy, Mark. And I think that, I think, based on that, and I think he's the guy that's going to be helped the most with these tight ends. I do.
So, Chris, taking what you said earlier, going back to 01, right, when Brady came, and if you looked at 01, Brady had Troy Brown, right? And then he went from Troy Brown to Welker. He went from Welker to Edelman / Gronk, right? And then at the end, his last year, Edelman was hurt. He really had nobody when he was here, Brady, right? Who is going to be Mac Jones's? It's 3rd and 5. It's 3rd and 6. Who am I looking to? Who am I getting that pass to on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6? Who is it? I don't know. That's going to be something I think we have to see play out because, Brady always had that. So I want to see who that person ends up being for Jones, because for him to be successful, Chris, he's going to have to do it. Someone's going to have to develop.
Myers has been that guy, for the last couple of years, for the last few years. Myers has been that guy, and I think he will be again. So, those are the rooms, those are the position rooms for the offense. And you know what? I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be okay. Again, running the ball, those play actions, which Mac Jones is
Chris, Chris, tight end has a ton of potential. We're going to have to see what happens if they're on the field,
especially with the play action. So, coming back, so we want to get to the defense now on that side. And we've had Gilmore watch throughout the last month, talking about what's Gilmore going to do. And now at this point, he's been put on the PUP list. So we're not going to see him for 6 weeks, right? What does that mean for them, Mark?
I think it means that, talking about what we talked about earlier, Chris, I think, one, they don't necessarily need Gilmore when you look at the first 6 weeks of the season, other than Brady. Who are they really facing at the quarterback position that can light them up? Especially when we get into what our front seven looks like in this, when we break down the defense. And secondly, Chris, obviously the contract's an issue. So you brought this up last week, Chris. Okay, does he give you for $7 million? He'll give you 8 games. He'd be worth 14 for 16. He's worth 7 for 8, and Gilmore's probably okay with that. But then word came out this week, Chris. They're working on a trade for him.
For Thomas down in New Orleans, the wide receiver who's been disgruntled for the last couple of years down there. He's a disgruntled player. They're getting irritated with him.
And today it came out they're talking to Dallas about the kid Gallup, the wide receiver Gallup.
I'd rather have Thomas.
Oh, of course I'd rather have Thomas in a minute. That's
your number one. You bring a guy like that on this team, that's it. They're there, in my opinion. They'll compete in week 4 with that team. But Mark, the secondary, the way it looks right now, you got Jalen Mills, Wade, who they just picked up. He's a rookie. You got, which is odd. Usually don't get trade for a rookie. But Juwan Williams, Bethel, Davis, J.C. Jackson now, and Jonathan Jones. Now, look, Jonathan, to me, if Jones is healthy.
Chris, those guys in the practice squad might get a little play, Bryant and Ross too.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's gonna depend on what the injury situation is too, and whether or not Gilmore is traded, doesn't come back in week 7. But again, to me, it's J.C. Jackson. He's the lockdown. Okay, and I think he, I want to say Jones on the opposite side. I think
if he's healthy, he's going to have to be.
If he's healthy. If not, did Jawan Williams show enough in the preseason? I think he had more plays that were in positive than negative, in my opinion. So I think he's going to get a lot of playing time, and let's see what Wade brings. And he's a slot guy. Wade. He's not a field corner. He's not that wide side of the field corner. He's more of a boundary slot guy like Logan Ryan was for the Patriots a while back. So I think, the corners, yes, you're missing the best one probably they have. I still think J.C. Jackson could be better, but than Gilmore. But yeah, you're missing the best one. But I think they can Band-Aid that, and especially in the safety spot, because you're looking at, Phillips, you're looking at Mills will play some. Wade maybe play some safety. And of course, McCourty, anchoring that entire secondary. So I think that back end is going to be pretty damn good. But will it depend on what's going on up front? And I know this is a group that you really love, the defensive end, defensive tackle. So you're looking at Henry Anderson, Perkins, Winovich, who was a little bit of surprise that they didn't waive him. They didn't release him because he's a specialist.
I didn't think they'd release him, Chris. I thought they would try to work a trade for him, and that never materialized.
Yeah. And so you got Wise, Barmore, who I liked, Davis, Godshaw, and Guy, of course, who didn't have, he didn't get any.
He didn't show well. He didn't show well in the preseason, no.
Right. So but I think they have enough, especially on the edge. And of course, we'll get to the linebackers and my favorite player. But I think they had enough at the ends, the edge to seal, which always irritates me when they can't do that. But I think they have enough there to really put some pressure on the quarterback. But they're going to have to stop the run, Mark. They weren't good at that last season. Do you think they've shorted up?
Yeah, they have, Chris, with Godchow and Bonmore and Guy. They brought Guy back. I think they absolutely have shored themselves up against the run. And you got Hightower and Van Noy back in there too. And Hightower sitting in the middle is going to stuff holes. But Godchow and Bonmore and Guy, I think, Chris, are going to do a bang-up job in the middle. And I was hesitant. I was not a fan of the Bonmore pick. I know you were real high on him, and I give you credit for that. You were really high on him, but he has shown in the preseason, Chris, that he is legit. That kid reminds me a little bit. He's got a lot of the Wolfhawk tendencies, but he's quicker and faster on his feet. I think the kid's got all pro potential.
I do
Absolutely.
too. And I like Perkins too. I like Perkins on the edge because I think he can seal. Now he's a guy you can drop back too. Perkins. Yeah. You could drop him back, but he can come. I mean,
Chris, listen, the biggest thing is the addition of the guy you keep saying could be Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, yeah, but again, keeping Winovich on this team, Mark, what that tells me is that Belichick must feel like, you know what, we have 2 down players that we could put in the likes of Perkins, and even Hightower goes on the edge sometimes, Weiss, and so on, where we can use a specialist. Bring him in on 3rd down, get to the quarterback. And he better do it or he is going to get traded. But Mark, that brings us to what you said.
Chris, I think Uche and Judon, Chris, remind me of Taylor and Banks when the Giants would just bring them off the edge. That's a big. No, it's big. But I'm just saying,
stretch, man.
It's a stretch. Listen, it's the week before opening day. I'm excited, Chris.
Yeah, and you've completely lost all sense of reality.
Why, dude, that's something new to you. I lost reality.
No, but look, that room. That room
COVID brain is just running rampant through the whole show.
Yeah. Listen, you got that room consists of Hightower, Judon, Bentley, King, Lange, and Uche. The one that surprised me that they kept was Lange. I was a little surprised by that.
Special teams, Chris. He likes those versatile guys.
He really does. But, normally we would say, and he's the leader in this group. He anchors it that way as Hightower. And normally we would say he's your best linebacker, but he's not. Judon, man, and we keep saying this is a game wrecker. This is somebody you have to, you got to plan for. This guy can come off the edge. He can play in the center. He can drop back. He could do it all. And, I expect him to have a lot of sacks, and that's going to free up your guy, Uche. because, and that's your guy, Mark. I mean, you know, I think the presence of Judon makes Uche better if he can stay healthy, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Chris, they have the potential. Just those two guys, over 20 sacks between the two of them.
They do. And again, I know, Joe, I hear it, but
Tell him we're talking Patriots.
Just
but to
in
finish
case.
the thought, that front seven gets enough pressure where that back end may not miss Gilmore. So our 2-minute warning today. So want to talk a little bit. Normally Mark and I would give our final thoughts in the sports world, but right now I think we need to acknowledge the NFL, Patriots Nation, and the country lost a good person and a good friend this week on September 2nd. David Patton passed tragically from an accident in South Carolina. David was a 12-year veteran of the NFL. He was most notably for the New England Patriots in those early Super Bowl runs from 01, 03, and 04, and retired in 2008. But that was not his. To me, more important is what he gave back to the community. You know, he started his own ministry when he retired, and for all things you read about, and we talked about this, Mark, off air a lot, is guys that just give a lot back to the community, and that's what he did. He was a good friend and a good person and a loving family. And Mark, to say that he was an integral part of that early Super Bowl run, that's an understatement, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I mean, let's face it, Chris. First of all, he helps get you to the Super Bowl. That first one, when Bledsoe hits him in the Pittsburgh game, right? So that was a big play in that game. And then in the Rams game, who's ever going to forget the throw to the back corner of the end zone before halftime? Gino was going crazy on the radio, right?
Yeah.
But those were just huge plays, and he made numerous plays, Chris, throughout his career with the Patriots. Even in the Carolina Super Bowl, he made some plays. He got open, in down the seam. He was an integral part of those teams, and it's rare, Chris, that you find a guy where nobody had a bad thing to say about him. Nobody had a bad thing to say about that man, and that's rare. And when you can say that about somebody, so it was a big loss to the Patriot community and to his family. And he was a great player, but he was a better person, and that's what's more important. He was a better person even than he was a player. And like you said, by what he gave back and what he did after his football life, is really a credit to him and to everything that he represented.
Yeah, it was a tragic loss to many, and he was always a go-to guy, both on and off the field, and gave so much back to the community. Our thoughts and prayers go out to first his family, his friends, Patriots Nation, and everyone around the country who he touched. David Patton passed at the age of 47. So, Mark, some people to thank today, and already, we're already through in another show, but that just brings us closer to what's going to be happening next week.
You're not going to be able to control yourself this week.
I don't think so. So, want to thank the good people over at Special Sauce Podcast, Startup Finance and Drive yourself to success, specialsaucepodcast.com. Want to thank the people over at Jag Media Productions, and Joe, everything you see here is produced by Jag Media Production. Studio 42 Designs in North Providence, Rhode Island. Studio42designs.com with the 4 and the 2 for all your graphic design needs. Want to thank the people over at Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. And Mountain View Home Watch and Security, Scottsdale's leading home watch and security firm. We also want to thank Joe Guarnieri, our producer, director. Nice job, Joe, today, as always. Always making up for our little mistakes. So join us next week, as I said before, Saturday, where we're going to have our normal Corso and Catone talk, all things New England related, New England sports. But we're also going to preview the Patriots game the day after. It'll be a Patriots preview show. We'll talk a lot about what we expect and what should happen and what we think will happen in the next game. And again, stay tuned for the Pats Nation. Mark, it's so exciting. stay tuned for the Pats Nation, and that's going to be our real Patriots post-game show, the real one. And that airs 30 minutes following every Patriots game. And don't forget to tune in to the New England Patriots as they host the Miami Dolphins at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll be on 30 minutes following that show. So for Mark Catone, I'm Chris Corso, Joe Guarnieri. So long, everyone.